It's time for Mac Break Weekly. Andy's here, Renee, Alex, lots to talk about. Why the government should not be allowed to regulate Apple, or maybe why it should be. We have a little debate on that. The long-lost Larry David promo that Apple made for WWDC in 2014 and never, ever aired. We'll play a little bit of that for you. And the right to repair. President Biden's weighing in. It's all coming up next on Mac Break Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Mac Break Weekly, episode 773, recorded Tuesday, July 6th, 2021. The swelling has gone down. Mac Break Weekly is brought to you by Hover. Whether you're a developer, photographer, or small business, Hover is something for you to expand your projects and get the visibility you want. Go to hover.com/twit to get 10% off your first purchase of any domain extension for the entire first year. And by Molecule. Molecule is reimagining the future of clean air, starting with the air purifier. For a limited time, save up to $120 on Molecule air purifiers by visiting molecule.com and using the promo code MacBreak120 at checkout. Enjoy free shipping and a 30-day home trial on your order. It's time for Mac Break Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news, of which there is precious little, but fortunately, we've got a bunch of good talkers on the show. Alex Lindsay is here from Office Hours fame and 090.media. Hello, Alex.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going great. How was your 4th?
It was good. I was in North Carolina in Cape Hatteras.
That's right. We missed you because you couldn't get the bandwidth.
I couldn't get the connection working. I did the research and it looked like it was going to have enough bandwidth, and then it didn't. And then I thought my phone would work, and then it didn't. And then I was
That's
okay.
fine.
We're going to give this one up.
Yeah, enjoy the family. I know you're famous in Pennsylvania legend for the fireworks, the amateur fireworks displays out in the cornfield. Did you do that this year?
No, we didn't do any of it. I think I saw some from my deck, from my house. I can see quite a few fireworks displays from my house, and so I kind of kept it to that. We had gotten in pretty late on the night before, so we just kind of hung out. We had a little champagne, and that was pretty much it.
And you avoided the incoming hurricane, so good for you.
Yes. All of us, I think we picked the right week to go. It was perfectly sunny, just a little rainy on the last day, and outside of that, it was near perfect. Cape Hatteras is quite a place because there's nobody on the beach, in the morning. So I was out shooting with my Blackmagic camera and my iPhone to take HDR tests, and that's what I do. My version of vacation is slightly different than most.
That's why.
I can take more sample files.
Orville and Wilbur Wright chose Kitty Hawk on the Outer Banks for their plane flights because they had nice soft dunes, but no people.
Yes, and there are just some people. There's not lots of people. So when you go out in the morning, the highest population in Cape Hatteras, in Avon, where we stay, is crabs. So if you sit quiet for a while, the crabs start coming out and they start fighting with each other and having a lot of fun.
Lovely. Andy Naka's also here. Did you have a fun New England 4th?
Mostly as New Englanders, we spent the time crouched low behind stone walls and trees in our farms, just in case Hessian mercenaries got any funny ideas again.
Keeping those muskets loaded and the powder dry.
It's worked for the past 230 some odd years. I mean, 56 degrees overnight. Not joking. After 2 or 3 days of 90-degree weather, and we're back up to 90-degree weather. We got a whole box of Dunkin' Donuts and some hot coffees, and tried not to think about the fact that Hessian mercenaries at this point are far, far down on the list of things that will wipe us out. Oh, well.
Part of our family lore is that one of my ancestors was a Hessian mercenary.
Oh.
And then, of course, many others fought on the other side. So, we have.
Is there still a veteran's pension? You
No, I don't think so. No. From the Hessian army, no.
In that case, lobster back, assassin.
And here he is, all the way from Montreal, where the Canada Day was postponed due to rain. Renee Ritchie YouTube.com/Rene Ritchie. Happy Canada Day.
Thank you, Leo. I'm only familiar with Hessian Mercenaries from Sleepy Hollow, where Christopher Walken was stranded without a head on a horse.
These things happen.
And it was crazy like that.
Happen.
So I'll take, that's my American history.
I don't know why this came down in family lore, but apparently the Hessian mercenary ancestor of mine was able to leap ditches quite impressively. It's the strangest bit of
He was
trivia.
a leaper.
He was a leaper. They hired him for his long legs, I guess. Apple hired Larry David for his comedic skills, but perhaps not the best choice for
the lead today, are we?
Yeah. This is our lead story.
Going right into it.
Why not? Larry, this is for WWDC in 2014, but Apple never ran it. Well, watch it and you'll see for obvious reasons why. Your apps have to get through a lot to make it onto the App Store, namely our head of app approval. By the way, if you don't watch Larry David, who created Seinfeld's Curb Your Enthusiasm, some of this will not make any sense, but this is the Curb Your Enthusiasm.
He's basically George Costanza, right? He's the Costanza.
George was based on him, but he's at great pains to say that he did not. That it was later modified.
Costanza with the confidence that comes from money.
Yeah. So here he is playing the head of app approval at Apple. There he is, a little grumpy, dour. There. Oh, it's the old Apple campus. I remember that well.
Hey, app guy. You're the app guy, right? Hey, I submitted an app to you a while ago.
By the way, note the snack truck labeled Snackintosh. Is that real or?
I've never seen a Snackintosh.
I don't know.
No, I don't know. Maybe they did it just for the film.
I didn't hear anything back, so I wanted
good font choice.
Hangman SD. Any feedback? Any thoughts at all? I'm happy to.
I hate that game. Gives me the willies. That's a morbid game. Morbid. You're hanging somebody. I'd rather be electrocuted.
My mom liked it.
Mine didn't.
Oh boy. This is not what you want to.
Well, this is okay.
In.
It's when you get
wait a minute.
I got one too.
Who is that?
I believe that's just an actor.
Oh, not an Apple guy.
What are you doing?
However, the CEO of Snapchat does make an appearance.
Do you work here?
Yeah, I've been working here for 8 years.
Where's your tag?
That's the thing, I left it at home.
Yeah, well,
I could be wrong. It's story.
No. That's
You're trying to coast on my security wake?
It doesn't matter. If the situation were reversed, I'd do this for you.
Situation reversed.
big shot.
Or was reversed. I don't know if it's were or was
It'd be
reversed.
funnier if
I
it
would
was.
say were. Yeah.
My point is, if the situation were reversed, I'd do it for you. That's all.
Yeah, but you know what? You can't reverse situations. Only Superman can reverse a situation by spinning around the world and making it go the other way. Okay?
I have to say, I
And you're
love
not
Larry
Superman.
David.
And even if you were, you don't have an ID. And you couldn't prove it. So you couldn't even prove you're Superman.
It's the rules. You just follow the rules.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
like
do.
Germany.
Exactly.
And that worked out well.
Well, they were very well organized. There were no security breaches. I have to go.
What if I said please?
no
No,
tailgating. It
this is
says
an
it
app.
specifically.
Where it lets you go through security without an ID. I'll approve it.
See, again, this is the kind of humor that works fine on HBO. maybe as a company sponsored and sanctioned thing at a developers conference. Also, later on, there's it does answer a lot of questions as to why the app review process tends to be so finicky. That was a good stroke.
Yeah.
However, there's like a joke about an app that he's discussing that is quite sexist. There's JB Smoove comes on, who's one of his co-stars and compatriots.
Let me
on
play the JB
Curb Your-
Smoove stuff because I just love JB.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, look, we got a lot of time to fill. I'm just saying.
Okay, that's fine.
Here comes JB Smoove.
It's $1 trillion idea. Okay? Get out of here. I got to get back to work.
All right, Larry. It's good to see you.
That's the
Enjoy the
actual
beach.
CEO of Snapchat.
He's eating a big sandwich,
Oh,
as he does.
that spicy Godfather?
Oh, you know what it is.
Spicy Godfather.
It's so damn good.
You didn't get me one?
I hit you on Snap and Chat. Never heard back from you. That's not my fault. Okay?
Must have got deleted.
This is why Snapchat didn't get approved.
Can I have a bite?
You know what? This is something they did for developers who would have mightily appreciated it. They probably they don't want the public to see it because of, well, obvious issues. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Also, again, there are a couple of jokes that are again within the context of a Larry David comedy, fine.
Yeah.
But you don't want lines like if you're black, you can't have a snack. That's a plot point that comes up.
Yeah.
About if you're white, you can't have a bite, and again other things. I'm glad that it's now very much a moving target. The link that I posted earlier this morning was taken down shortly after I posted it on Twitter, but it's now it's on YouTube. It's on other places.
Yeah, it's actually 10 minutes. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah, exactly. It was on Vimeo for like 2 years before 9 to 5 decided to do a little post about it. So now people are looking for it.
He gets mad at the developer of a game called Upset Pigeons because he says it's a ripoff of Angry Birds. Evan Spiegel, the Snapchat founder, as you pointed out, is in there. Awesome. But it's a little sensitive subject right now for Apple. But these things, it's hard to keep
Tim's face when he watches it and says, "Who thought this was a good idea? Who thought this was a good idea?"
2014.
He eats his power bar staring.
He must have approved it. Yes? No?
It didn't air.
Well, 2014, yeah.
He approved and disapproved at the same time. Well, that's the problem. You hire Larry David. I doubt you give him a script. I know you don't give him a script. So, you say, okay, well, let's see what he does. And then you go, yeah, well, we're not going to use that.
He's a writer, so he's like, this is his show. You're kind of asking you.
Yeah,
they probably went through the whole production. They just hired him. Like, wouldn't that be funny? And then they hired him, and then they watched it, and were like,
I'm going to guess he didn't give him a script approval.
No.
Well, they had to. I mean, to get Evan Spiegel, to get all those people there, I don't think he has Evan Spiegel's number to call.
No, they helped.
There has to be some sort of logistical support, NIL's staff to coordinate it, and PR, and
Oh well,
right, but it's not like when you've got like Seinfeld money, as Larry David does. When you also have on the back of it the success on HBO with his own series, like you can ask for things like that's fine, but the deal is that you pay me, I do my thing. Then you can either choose to. Then at that point you see it, and then you either choose to run it or not. So this is probably not where there was a PR person with a clipboard saying, Larry, I'm wondering if we can have that sandwich be a vegetarian sandwich because
how about not so many Nazi references?
And I'm guessing that's part of the problem with Apple TV Plus. I mean, there's a reason you have a big hit with Curb Your Enthusiasm and 11 seasons or 12 seasons.
Yeah,
he may. We don't know the story. I wonder if he actually pitched Apple and said, "Look, I'd like to do this." Here's the completed story.
How app savvy is he? Like, how savvy about how the App Store works is he? Or did that require
there's precedent. The original crew from the UK office did like a version of the Office for, I think it was Microsoft.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That was also like I think it was for the Salesforce or for some other group, but it's out there and it is super funny. It is again Ricky Gervais and the tall guy. I can never remember his name.
Is it Seinfeld and Bill Gates funny?
Yeah. That was funny for a different reason, I believe. Anyway, there's our show.
Better or worse? Was Larry David better or worse than the fart app guy who was actually running App Review at the time?
Yeah. Okay. You're right. Yeah. Is Apple? Actually, this opens up an interesting kind of philosophical discussion. Is Apple appeasing developers over the App Store? It's interesting to see people like Marco Arment furious at Apple, and then others saying we're so grateful to Apple. There isn't a unified feeling among app developers that Apple's either doing it exactly right or exactly wrong. Is there, Renee? What is your sense of that?
It varies. I think a lot of people, and it's varied over time too. Like I went back and looked at a lot of the early sentiment when the App Store was announced and people couldn't believe the kind of deal that they were getting. A lot of people couldn't believe the kind of deal they were getting because the previous deal was so much worse. But over time, over a decade, a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have matured. The market has matured, and maybe Apple hasn't matured as much as they would like along with it. So I think the environment now is very different, and you still have some people who feel like they can easily make an app, built on all of Apple's frameworks, a lot of the stuff that Apple provides, and make a really good business, and others who see the popification of apps, almost like the popification of music and news and everything else, and the value completely gone, going from scarcity to abundance, and that it's really, really hard. It's like getting a hit music single now to get a hit app, and they probably resent that apps became a mainstream thing the way that they have.
Yeah,
I just know some developers, and I don't know all the developers, but I know some folks that never thought that they'd be making apps and are now making like $50,000 a month.
Right.
Like doing it. And they're like, this is pretty good, and they, there's a lot of folks that have benefited from this. I mean, I think that we just have to keep on. I mean, nothing is ever perfect. Like we have this thing like, is everyone happy with Apple? No one's ever going to be happy. Not everyone's going to be happy with Apple. I think that the thing we saw in the congressional fiasco was the 30% of developers are unhappy with Apple. That's actually, I thought, pretty good. So, I mean, if only 30% are upset about something, because it's just like, they're not going to make everybody happy, and I think that, and again, as someone who's developed on the Apple platform, over the last 20 years on and off, and I'll be putting something else on soon, I just don't know if people have perspective, on how hard it used to be to do this,
Yeah, but there's an area that we can talk about that comes down to, are they happy with the tools that they're given? Are they happy with the fee structure? Are they happy with the rate at which Apple is releasing new features? Should they be releasing new features through the App Store instead of always through an annual debate? But there's also the simpler damn things that come down to, like, why is it that when you have developers who are like first round elected pick Hall of Fame developers who've been, if you were to name 12 different Mac apps that are uniquely Mac, you would find these names on that list. And even today, I'm not going to quote a name because I'm not sure that this person wanted to be put onto a podcast, but just saying that, app review is just this absolute worst, most horrible thing we ever have to do. And I know that this person is having a bad day. It requires an incredible amount of emotional labor to deal with spurious app review rejections. I'm quoting here. This is just this morning. This was like 2 hours ago. This is the sort of stuff that gets developers just all pretty salty and frosty against Apple. They should be better at app review right now than they were like 3 years after they launched the App Store. They should have fixed these problems. If they're not fixing it, then they've got a problem that they just don't care that much about.
And I'm curious what the specifics are, because I posted an app for something I was working on last fall, and it took 8 days. And it was, there was a couple things that got kicked back, and then it was fixed, and then it was through. And it was available. Yeah. And I just and so the thing is, when people say it, I'm kind of curious. I'm always curious, like, what was it that had it? Now we wrote it very, very carefully with a highly organized team to put it together, and it was extremely clean code and a relatively straightforward thing to do. But it was like I'm curious because it was so easy. I was warning the folks who were working with. It was like, this could take a month, like, I don't know how long this is going to take, and it just kind of sailed through.
The historical problems that I always have when I'm talking to these people, and mostly I'm talking to like a couple of dozen, 3 dozen people I call friends who I've known for like 10 or 20 years, who've been developing for Mac and the iPhone. When it comes down to, you told us, I actually have an email from you from 2 weeks ago saying that if I changed my app this way, it'll sail through without a problem. That was the problem that you were having, and now you're telling me that's being denied specifically because of this change that you yourself just told me to make. And it's at some point when you keep hearing these stories, I'm so glad I'm not a developer, because it's just, what else can I do for a living that doesn't involve it's almost as though they're playing with developers for sport. And when you have 30% of the developers who are saying that they've got problems with the way that Apple handles the App Store, not all of them feel as though they're being led around on a chain like that. But nonetheless, that's like, if a third of your workforce said that, Alex, I don't think you're a good boss. I don't think it's good working for you. I don't think we'd start talking about the problems with the developers. I think we'd start talking about the problems with Alex.
One thing that was interesting to me is that I wanted to make I hate looking at anything in like a spherical imaginary cube. So I asked a bunch of other companies to see how this problem scales. And I want to divide it into two things. One, there's just the jackass stuff, which, like when they'll say, we're going to reject this widget app because we don't want anyone else to make a widget app like it. And that will clearly send a message. So they don't have to actually go on record saying anything. And I think that's garbage. Never treat anybody that way. But then like you talk to YouTube about dealing with YouTube content at scale, which is even bigger than the App Store. And there have been cases over the last week where people had their whole accounts shut down, their entire livelihoods, completely incorrectly, and they got a human review and it was still upheld, and they had to appeal it, and eventually it got overturned because it was just on the face wrong. And you look at the App Store numbers and you look at the YouTube numbers, and they're catching 20 million bad things every day, scams and spams and all these things, but they're still screwing up. And they'll tell you, anyone involved in the system will tell you, they don't know how to get it better. The more they ratchet it down, the more garbage gets through, and the more they ratchet it up, the more false positives they have. And there's probably a better system. Like you look at it, you say instinctively, just look at the top 100 apps. Just fix the top 100 apps. Fix the YouTube trending page. Like do any of those simple things. But they're operating with billions of dollars and millions of people, and they haven't been able to solve it.
Well, and I'm not sure. I think that's a good point. But
my channel,
go ahead.
Pixel Core. Yeah. My channel Pixel Core was out for 4 months, and I know people to call, like on YouTube, and they just couldn't figure out why. And then they couldn't fix it. So this is not an isolated case in software.
It's not at all uncommon. Yeah. Go ahead, Andy.
The only point that I would make that it is a problem everywhere at scale. This doesn't mean that Apple doesn't have a responsibility to try to attack this problem better than they're doing. But the bigger thing is that the difference between YouTube and the App Store is that you submit an app to the App Store, it doesn't go directly onto the App Store. It simply has to go through a review process before it even has a chance to find its legs. With YouTube, the policy is that, look, it goes up. If it violates a policy, then we take it down. Or if someone inflicts a copyright strike, we take it down. If someone makes a complaint, we take it down. It's not as though people are being prevented from uploading their first videos. It's at the rails are greased towards making sure that you can put your content up there until something gets in the way after you've posted it that says that it should be taken down. And that's not that's not for reasons of. It may be possibly because of certain reasons of scale, but a lot of it is simply because they have a legal obligation to make sure that to protect themselves with Section 230, to make sure that when there is a complaint, when there is something that is improper, when there is something illegal, that content gets taken down in a speedy manner. And the reason why that a lot of YouTube creators are victimized, and I do use the word victimized, by Google's copyright strike policy and the taking down channels, is because in this case the natural flow of water is towards if a piece of video is problematic, that video comes down, because that's the way that when you're dealing with 500,000 videos coming in at a what is it, on a 1 hour basis or a 1 day basis, that's the only way to keep ahead of it. That's the only way to make sure that you're not going to be shut down on the basis of not keeping up to what you agreed to when you agreed to these terms.
Both now, like they'll content ID you before you go up. You have to pass through the check system now first, and if you don't pass the check system, you have to change something or you can't go live. But mostly the accounts are being terminated now because they're false flagged for spam. There's a ton of spam where people are using false usernames, and YouTube gets confused and thinks you're the spammer, even though it's people emulating you. There's no part of the internet that we can have nice things on anymore, including App Stores and YouTube.
And I think that the thing is that it's harder for the reason that Apple makes it harder for the developers is because it's easier for the user. So the user has a lot less to worry about when they download things and they start to use it. And Apple has been flat out that they prioritize the user over the developers. Like I don't think Apple has ever said anything else, because that is the lifeblood of the platform. It's why people buy so much stuff on the App Store, is because when you buy it, you know that it's not going to do a lot of things that happen on the Android, on the Play Store. And so the thing is that, developers are having a hard time getting it through in some cases. Again, I haven't experienced that on the stuff that I put up, but I hear that it does happen. But on the other side of that, as a user, I've gotten to the point where I will barely download, and if it's not a well-known company, I will barely download anything off the internet to install on my computer. Like I just don't trust it.
That's smart.
And
actually.
So
I mean,
yeah,
it's certainly worth doing
has to
some
be
background checking before you do that.
But the problem with that is that without that, you can be as a very small developer, an individual developer putting something up on the App Store, and you have to go through all these hoops and you have to do all those things, but you get that implicit trust that Apple has looked at it. Are they perfect? No. But the user will give you a chance. I will download something on my phone much faster than I'll ever do anything on my computer, because the computer from my perspective is the wild, wild west. And so it has to be a well-known company or I'm not going to buy their product anymore on the computer. On a well-protected, highly closed, gated community of the App Store, I look at something, oh, that looks cool, and I download it. I'll play with that for a little bit, and because I think that I believe as the user that there's a very limited number of bad things that can happen. I'm not saying that nothing bad can happen, but very few bad things can happen compared to what I would download on my computer. And I think that that's what Apple's protecting, and I think that we underestimate how valuable that is when we start talking about wanting to mess with the App Store.
Even websites. I go to websites on my iPhone I'd never go to on my Mac.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I want to, and as a user, the reason I'm so upset about this congressional stuff is that it's the only thing in my life that I think actually works very well. Is the way that the integration from the user's perspective, maybe not from the developer's perspective, but from the user's perspective, almost everything, it doesn't work perfectly. My AirPods can never figure out what device they're supposed to be talking to, but I know that's because I'm a special case. I have lots of devices that they're near them, but for the most part, it just works. It really does just work as a user, and nothing else in my life seems to just work like in the technology world. And so I'm very protective about that, because I feel like for a bunch of stupid academic ideas, Congress may actually take that away from us. And that's going to be, that they have in their little heads, people who don't use email and, are being advised by, Android users who are tired of being left out.
Okay, well, but the question that we are confronting more and more often over the past few years is that, great, it works for you, but does it work for everybody? And is there a level playing field so that everybody has the same opportunity to have the same wonderful experience that you're having? And I don't think I think overregulation is consumer. I'm saying is everybody having a really, really great experience here, and not everybody is. And what my
when you say everyone, what do you mean by everyone? Like everyone in the world? I mean, because we're talking about 7 billion people, it's 5 billion that are kind of left out of the whole.
Yeah, but Alex, if developers are having a bad experience, that ultimately hurts consumers, because apps that you would like to see or you don't even know you want aren't going to appear in the App Store.
How many apps?
Developers have to be happy too. They can't. It can't just be the end users.
What I'm getting at is that it is absolutely 100% appropriate for Apple and other companies to not have to simply, as a PR thing, say, no, it's a good thing for consumers that we pre-install our fee-based music subscription service, and we pre-install our fee-based movie streaming service, and our fee-based data storage service all built in, and we don't allow Spotify and other competitors to have that kind of advantage. No, it's all for the users. That's fine if Apple wants to say that in a PR statement, but I think it's 100% appropriate for lawmakers and investigators and antitrust people to say, go ahead and prove it. Give us the paperwork. Make the case in a court of law that this is not you're not helping to submarine other options by making sure that your stuff gets preloaded on every single phone, just to name one example, and that this is not something that makes it harder for other platforms to get their toe in the door on an iPhone. This is not. I'm not saying necessarily that Apple should be forbidden from pre-installing Apple Music on every iPhone, but I'm saying they have to. We're not going to take their word for it anymore. They have to demonstrate. They have to prove it.
I think I think that they should have to prove it in a court of law, not in Congress. That's the key. They should take it to a court of law and have it adjudicated all the way to the Supreme Court and see how it turns out. But
are you okay with the FTC having that power? Are you okay with the Justice Department having that power?
As long as it ends up in the courts, sure. No, because Congress is not run by people who understand technology. We just have to understand they're not our friends, and they didn't win a competency battle. They didn't win an intelligence score. They won a popularity contest. And that's who's making a decision about what we're going to use and whether we as Apple users are going to have the environment.
Alex, it sounds like you have an argument with the way America runs, and I'm going to have to call you out on that, because that's what we do in this society. We vote in representatives based on what we want them to do, and we have to give them that power, Alex. And you may not like it, but sorry, that's the way it works.
I think we as users need to just apply pressure. I'm not saying that it should be any other way. We just have to know that the people who are making these laws don't know what they're doing, and that we need to make
disagree with you on that. And I think that we give them that power because society needs to regulate this stuff.
No.
And somebody has to do it. And you can say, well, I don't like the guys who are doing it. And you should absolutely go out and campaign for people who do know what they're doing. But that's the way it works here.
No, I'm saying that the people who are, as Apple users, we have a choice right now, and that is to pick out the 6 or 8 people who created, who publish these laws, and make sure that their phone rings. That's all. That we have a right to do that as a citizen,
and that's your duty as a citizen.
If these laws get through, it means that we, as the users, didn't do our job.
But it's a little bit of a cop out to say, well, we can't let the government get involved in this because they don't know what the hell they're doing. That basically says we should let big tech decide what to do, period, end of story. And I don't think that that's an acceptable solution either.
Well,
so
I know.
You're right.
And
Get
I just
involved.
think that
Get involved.
If you're a user and you want to have the environment that you have right now and you don't want to put it at risk, what you should be doing is calling those Congress people.
Yes.
All the time.
Yes. But I really dislike the narrative that government sucks because they're stupid, and so we shouldn't have any government, because that's a false narrative.
I didn't say that.
You did say that. You said you shouldn't let Congress regulate this because they don't understand technology.
They don't.
Yeah. Well, you should. You do have to let Congress, and you should let Congress regulate it.
But I didn't say there shouldn't be any government. I didn't say. I just want to make sure.
You're implying that. You're saying Congress doesn't understand technology, so they should not regulate it. That's absolutely their duty and right. And if you don't like it, you should elect somebody else. But that's the way it works.
I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a government, though, or implying that there shouldn't be a government. I think that would be a horrible idea. I think all I'm saying is that they should be very careful about sticking their nose into something they don't understand. That's the thing that, and generally, if it's a sure thing, the government will probably screw it up half the time. If it's an unknown, they'll screw it up almost all the time. And so the thing is it's fine, and we just need to. I'm not saying the government should not make any laws or it shouldn't exist or anything crazy like that. I'm just saying when you look at how deep these are. These laws and how nebulous they are, where they give the government enormous amounts of power, and they're creating a new bureau, and they're creating, these aren't like little, like Apple can't do one thing or these are incredibly deep laws that we're talking about. These are not little scalpels. These are huge blades that they're talking about adding to it that give them almost unfettered right to do a whole lot of things that could damage our experience as Apple users. If it was a little law, it wouldn't be a big deal, but it's so nebulous. The laws are so poorly written and so open-ended that it basically lets the government do anything that they want to do in these areas. And so the thing is that if it was a better written law, more specific, I think that it would be fine. I think there's a lot of things. I mean, telling Apple they can't put their apps on, I don't think that's going to, because people will just put them on, but I don't think, but I think that starting to do things like side loading absolutely will affect our security and create this huge mess for a user.
I'll just say that I've been talking to a whole bunch of people who have experience in not the people who don't work on government, but people who analyze laws and basically what they say a government can and cannot do. And they've been explaining to me about these 5 laws that are still being rewritten and still being argued and debated through Congress right now, not something that's been put up to a vote yet. And what they've been telling me does not put me in agreement with your conclusion of what these laws mostly encompass. I think that mostly what they're doing is they're putting the FTC and the Justice Department with power to do more than simply settle cases, which is something that they desperately need because right now they don't have the power to do jack. Facebook has had the ability to bust 2 major settlements with the FTC, and knowing that, look, if we bust these agreements, all we got to do is keep this thing in litigation and get to the point where the government is crawling on their knees to settle this, and we'll write them a check, and then we're done. We're beyond this. we need this is why one of these laws that I'm looking at with giving the FTC the power to actually do stuff, saying, look, if you here are whatever these rules are. We're not going to talk about the nature of these rules at this point. We're just saying that we're going to have the ability to absolutely to actually draw blood on these companies if you decide to be jerks on the level that Facebook has decided to be. I don't think that's a bad thing.
That's not representative government. That's handing the FTC a bureaucracy the ability to do damage.
All right. Well, that's their job. They're a regulatory agency. Yeah. Someone has to have the stick that can beat. Right now, we've got. I will wind this up. I'm sorry. I know we have
I'm 100% behind you. I will just become a political conversation. That's
all I'm saying is that right now, Google controls the access point to the internet for so much of the world right now. By having created a brilliant search tool that works great, and they keep improving it. Facebook, there are many countries for which Facebook is the internet, and right now the idea that we don't have some bizarre radical right-wing or left-wing zealot running Google who says that no, anytime someone asks for information on this political issue, we're only going to give them information that supports our side of things, or we're going to do it in such a subtle way that people never figure out what we're doing. We're relying on their good graces right now for that, and at this scale, that's no longer good enough. So I'm just saying I'm very, very open to the idea of giving regulators more ability to make sure they put a little bit of the fear of God in them if necessary, saying that, no, you will not settle this in 8 years' time by giving us a check for $12 million. So we're not looking for a press release speaking issue saying, hey, look how we brought Facebook to its knees. We are going to make you get rid of your CEO because he's been lying to us time and time again. We're going to make you divest yourself of this part of your business, which you've told us twice over the course of 6 years that you are going to change the way you operate these businesses and not done anything about it. That's what I'm going for. And I don't have blind faith in the government, but I do believe that without regulatory agencies, they are like unions in the sense that individually citizens have no power to fight against a $2 trillion company. If people who are ordinary citizens can activate their government to say we don't want these companies to have this power over us on this specific issue, then we do have some power against these companies, and they can't just simply do whatever they want. So that's my point.
Well, they can if they pay them enough money.
Stop it.
I just want to say one thing.
Alex, you've got a very strong bias against
all I can say
this.
is no.
I understand.
Cable companies.
So work to improve it, but
we have bad internet.
I understand.
because they
I
pay
agree,
enough.
Alex. But the problem is, what you end up doing is you get people to just give up on government, and so the answer is not to give up on government, but to get better people in the office, lobby.
Well, I would say more directly to get the context for these congressmen and
get them the information. I agree with you. I agree with you. Get the information.
That's how we
But this is also
SOPA.
a process.
That's how we stop.
Those bills, and we did stop them, and that's the point. This is a process.
All you got to do is create
those
pain.
bills have to go through a lot of committee work. Courts will get involved.
60 votes.
It's a very elaborate system, and I think for the most part it works. But it's the only way we as a society have to express what we want from these big tech companies. The alternative is to let them run rampant, and I don't think that's the solution either. So we got to make it work, and we got to make it work better. But I really worry when you start arguing that way that what happens is people just give up on government, and I don't think that's the right answer at all.
Well, I don't think they should give up on government, but I think that they should know that beyond voting, we have the power to stop it by just simply picking up the phone.
Yeah,
say that. That's all I'm saying.
But you change your tune a little bit, because what you said is you can't trust these guys to do anything about it, so we shouldn't let them. What you should do is inform them.
They're not going to respond. They're not going to respond by you arguing. They're not going to respond by you arguing the points because they don't really understand the points. What they're going to respond to is X number of calls are coming in against it.
I agree with you. Yeah, get involved. Don't get uninvolved.
Very low brain
the risk of what you're saying is that people will get uninvolved. Get involved. That's the right answer. Yeah. Margaret Vestager in the by the way, it's not just going to be the U.S. In the EU is also saying, while I think privacy and security is of paramount importance to everyone, it's not a shield against competition. And she's pointing out that Apple might be using this. Well, side loading is bad for privacy and security as a way of defending an anti-competitive stance. So you're going to have to face this as well. I mean, it's not just in the U.S., it's in the EU as well.
I will say that's something I'm very concerned about. That I believe that Apple is picking and choosing certain issues as smokescreens for things that they can't really defend. Like, why are they so violently opposing right to repair? They're not talking about stuff like that. They're talking about, it's ridiculous to have to force us to sideload apps because it creates a security problem. And yes, it would weaken the security of the of the iPhone. And I do agree that I don't think that sideloading is something that Apple should be forced to do. But okay, great. But Apple, we've got this other bushel basket full of other issues that are potentially anti-consumer that you don't want us to talk about. You want us to reject this entire concept based on the fact that part of these one or two of these issues are things that we agree with you on. We don't agree with you on everything. Don't assume that, and be open to talking about all these other issues that are part of that whole panoply.
I think it's fair to expect Apple to act in their own self-interest.
Oh, of course.
As all corporations do. And so somebody has to say, look, that might be in what you think is in your self-interest, but we the users are not as happy.
Well, we the users, it's in most of our interest. What it's really not in is in the developers who want to get in. I get that it's not in their interest, but as the user,
well, I'll give you an example,
really
Alex. Let's not use Epic, but let's use Microsoft's xCloud. Microsoft has decided not to fight this battle, but Apple will not let them put xCloud in as an app, so they have to use Safari as a browser so you can use xCloud, and it's a suboptimal solution. As a user, I would like to be able to play my Xbox games on my iPad, but because it has to be done in the browser, which Apple kind of poorly supports, it's not a very good experience. Who's that in the benefit of?
I as a user, I guess I just don't care. Like, I would never play it on that.
That's you. That's you. Let me tell you, as a user, I care.
Things are working great for you.
I do too, but
that doesn't mean for everybody.
Right.
And that's one of the things where I think Apple's going to have to change their mind based on overwhelming pressure from everybody who does care about it, which is an effective negotiation.
Yeah, and you can say, oh, look, it's just Apple versus Microsoft, but it's not. End users have a dog in this hunt as well.
Apple can be dumb. I mean, they're not a monoculture, and there's a lot of people there, and they have the same kind of arguments internally that we have on this show every week, probably every bit as passionately. I can just see Phil and Eddie throwing cards at each other in meetings, day in and day out over some of these things. But they're going to get things wrong, and they're going to fix those things, and they're going to get stuff just plain stupid. And the same way you want to apply pressure to governments, you got to apply pressure to companies, and that includes voting with your wallet, but also includes vocally. My video today was about why they made an iPad mini. Steve hated the idea. Kevin Toffel wrote an article about it in GigaOM. Eddie Q got the article, read it, went and bought a Samsung Galaxy Tab, and then convinced Steve and Tim they had to make this.
Good.
That stuff works.
I think Apple capitulating to pressure from the consumer totally makes sense. I think that it arbitrarily being changing the entire business model from a government perspective is the thing that puts us at danger of having something that, for me, is a core part of what I do, a core part of my day. Probably most of my day is on some kind of Apple piece of hardware, and I admit that I just don't want it to be messed with. Because it's it just means that my life will be.
But consumers don't always act in their own interest, and really Apple set it up quite cleverly. Apple will always say, well, you can just switch to Android and Windows. See ya. But they've set it up quite cleverly to keep people locked into the ecosystem.
Which was Microsoft's thing. They're still Apple. Don't come after us. They're still Apple. We'll give you some money and some stock. Yeah. They're still Apple.
By the way, good news. It looks like Apple might make a new iPad mini. I've been seeing rumors that's not dead, right?
An iPad Air Mini. iPad Mini Air? Yeah. I don't know which way a smaller version of the iPad Air.
This is Mark Gurman again, and he's very well connected. So let's hope that's the case. I'm going to give Apple some props because they did do something interesting in China. This is from the Financial Times. When Apple created the switch to turn off IDFA, advertisers in China decided to create an alternative back channel that would allow them to track iPhones for advertising called CAID. The Baidu, Tencent, and TikTok parent ByteDance were involved in this. The Financial Times reported its existence. Advertising technology experts said the project marked a grave risk to Apple's global privacy rules and its $50 billion business in China. Apple took a hard line stance on this, blocking updates to several apps that it caught enlisting CAID in their software updates. And after that reaction, according to the Financial Times, the Chinese alternative to IDFA lost support, and the whole project failed to gain traction.
Clint Eastwood stare. Can you imagine? Just Clint
they stared him
stare,
down.
The Tim Cook stare.
Yeah.
And they stood up to Facebook too. There's some things that they're willing to really go to the line on with some of the biggest internet companies in the world, and privacy seems to be there.
It's a little tougher with China because you're not only taking on internet companies, you're taking on a government. And CAID was state-backed. But apparently the Chinese, and this is what happened, I would guess happened, is the Chinese government decided, well, we're not going to fight this battle quite yet.
Yeah. And they could wind up tripping into a mud hole sometime in the future, because you really never know where policy is going to go in China. Right now, there's a big sweep that is on the surface very, very pro-consumer, like a ride-sharing app that used to actually be owned by Uber is basically hasn't been shut down, but their app has been taken off of the app store, so they can still operate, but they can't sign up new users until the Chinese Internet Regulatory Agency and the company have come to an agreement about the regulatory agency told this company that we've reviewed your data privacy policies, and we don't think they're sufficient. You're not protecting information well enough. So and of course the company has come back saying thank you for bringing this to our attention. We look forward to working with you to get this app up and running, and we will continue to serve our existing customers. And part of it is, of course, because of security, but also they also consider it a problem of state security, where if information can leak out of these apps, personal information, names, addresses, modes of travel, travel habits, this is information that a foreign agency or foreign entity can get a hold of as well. So they're very, very much interested in making sure that it's like they can't, you can't spy on your users. Only we can spy on your users. Hey, knock it off, tighten up.
Well,
so they might wind up.
And this might also be a case of some a group using privacy as a shield for what they really want, because there's some speculation this came after Didi had an IPO in the United States, and that and in fact other actions from the Chinese regulatory bodies kind of maybe confirm this, that really what they're mostly concerned about is let's not have Chinese companies on the New York Stock Exchange. So I like your sentiment, Andy, but it's not exactly clear what the Chinese government is up to.
True. They've gone after more companies than that, but you're right. It's I'm not an old China hand. I'm not an expert. I have a list of people that are now very, 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 very sick of like talking to me because, hey, what about this thing about the ride-share app? Like, Andy, we're having a cookout. You mentioned right to repair, and Apple. I think you're right, Andy. Apple's unreasonable opposition to that. In fact, extreme lobbying against it in state by state. The president is directing the FTC to draft, this came out today from Bloomberg, new rules that aimed at stopping manufacturers from limiting consumers' ability to repair products at independent shops or on their own. This is a leak. But that would be really good news if an executive order comes out that says, we really want to support the right to repair, and we urge the FTC to get involved in this. European Commission also doing that.
Incredibly controlling. Like their entire, like the whole psychology of understanding this is Apple just wants to completely control all of this and allow only the sorts of repairs that they can fussily maintain with zero chance of litigation against them. And they have these ideas, and you can laugh at them too, but like this is like giant Apple sort of since the days of Steve Jobs stealing the Macintosh ideas that people are going to get.
Yeah, he didn't want anybody going in the Mac.
Them or cable
no, I don't even know if it's lawsuits. I think it's also they just don't want people to have a bad experience and blame Apple, right? They don't want any liability or culpability at all. Right. A lot of this is shielding, but a lot of it also is the thing. It's like for me again, it's one of those things where you either have to let me do it or you have to do all of it at cost, like with abundant availability. And right now they can't do either. Yep.
Which is
I am sympathetic to Apple's point of view, maybe less so to John Deere's point of view about this, but I'm somewhat sympathetic. But at the same time, I also believe you bought it. you get to break it if you want. And
they're
it's
also
it's on
irrational
you.
about trade secrets, and a lot of the parts they get are slightly like people will say, why don't they just make the part? Like a lot of those parts, they're like, we don't want it the way that Dell has it. Please change these two things, and that way it's only ours. And then they don't have enough chips even for themselves, and we have shortages for devices every year because there's lack of supply, and they won't have enough for the supply chain. And the answer to that's going to be stop using, just start using commodity parts, and then they're going to throw up in their head a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, but part of it is just if they were just to release information to qualified people, that would be enough. Again, I'm amazed every time I go onto YouTube. Now the algorithm is very, very good at finding like a MacBook and an iPhone and iPad fix-it channels, saying, "Well, now that we've removed this proprietary IC, I'm going to use this solder mask that I got off of who knows where to reball this chip that I've salvaged off of another machine that had a broken burst battery." If they can source their own parts, that will negate that. I think that we should all be a little bit upset that Apple just wants to shut the door on this completely, as opposed to figuring out a way that is reasonable for everybody.
I'll give you a good example. This is my Pixel 4 XL, a couple of years old. Battery swelled and popped the back off of it. And after a number of people said, you really shouldn't continue to charge it now, that it might burst into flames, I went to iFixit. I ordered a replacement battery. They had an excellent video, or actually, I guess it was a step-by-step, and all the tools came with it. I was a little nervous, $40, I think, and replaced it, and it's working perfectly. So I like that I could do that. I mean, of course, most people would probably want to go to a repair shop and do it, but for me, it was a fun little thing to do. It worked great. This swelling has gone down. I'm happy to report. And
chicken soup did its work.
Yeah,
cold compress.
That's the right to repair is all about.
Well, there's a lot of places without Apple stores and without like any Apple repair centers, and people literally have no recourse. They have to use mail, and you don't want to be without your phone.
So the fact that iFixit had the part, they had the tools, and they had the explanation of how to do it. That's all we're asking. And Apple's really tight with those parts in those manuals. They really, and now they've loosened up a little
so only
bit.
they can open it up again. Like they want to shut everything down, and then they'll go, okay, we'll license these centers, but only these centers, and on March, not in April. But like that's again, it's not tenable.
Look, this is perfect. I would love it if they'd had screws. This was glued together, so iFixit sends you a little bolster that you heat up in the microwave that warms the thing up, so it melts the glue. You can pry it off and all that stuff. But it worked.
I'm not that offended by the use of adhesives and stuff like that, because there is an argument to be made that users do not want a phone that is a half an inch thick that could be taken apart with easy to access hex bolts. They want something that's slim, that's lightweight.
I understand.
They want the adhesives make it waterproof. But what Apple doesn't seem to want to argue is that if you give us the information that we need, we will figure out how to open it up. We'll take care of that.
Exactly.
We will figure out how to seal it back up again. And if we break it while we open, we will say, dag nabbit. Oh well, that's on me. It's just frustrating it would be frustrating if Apple decided, by the way, for no reason whatsoever, to improve our product for our users, we decide to coat the entire logic board after it's assembled with epoxy threaded with cordite, so that the entire thing sets off an explosive charge if it's exposed to light. Like, oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you, Apple.
Do not mess with explosive bolts on iPhone.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's take a little break. Andy Ihnatko, Renee Ritchie, Alex Lindsay. We're talking about Apple. Our show today brought to you by Hover. I own a lot of domain names. I have a problem. I admit it. But it makes it so easy to go to hover.com and register a domain name. And there's so many great reasons to own your own domains. If you're a blogger, I have leo.fm for my blog. I also have leolaporte.com for my blog. If you're a photographer, an artist, to have a portfolio, my photos are at leo.camera, which I got at Hover. I think that's awesome. Building an online store, maybe a more memorable link to your LinkedIn page. Hover's got the best domain names and email addresses just for you. I have leo.ist for our German audience. Email at your domain name, of course, is one of the best things everybody absolutely should do, especially if you're a business. It's just not cool to redirect to Hotmail or Yahoo or, mybusiness@gmail.com. Just doesn't project the right image. You could still use Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail if you want, but have it be a domain name that reflects to that. Or even better, let Hover do the mail. They do a great job. It's so easy to set up. You can add as many mailboxes to your domain as you need. And when your domain renews, your mailboxes renew too. Very affordable. Their most popular mailbox, basically it's a no-brainer for business owners. Have that business name and let Hover handle the mail too. So you get the privacy that way too. And you get access from anywhere. Of course, you continue to use the email app you're already comfortable with. Hover has webmail as well, so a lot of people prefer that. And as I said, I reflect my Hover domain names to various email services. You can do that too. It's just the best way to get set up. And they don't try to upsell you on stuff you don't need. They have very, very good pro-level DNS tools for domain and email management. They're intuitive. They're easy to use. I'm in there all the time. They're private and secure. A lot of companies will upsell you on Whois privacy. Hover just throws it right in with the domain purchase because they know you want to stay private. Great way to reduce spam, protect yourself from unwanted solicitations. Hover Connect makes it very easy to wire up the service you want to use, whether it's WordPress or Squarespace or Shopify. Host your website. Connect helps you start using those domain names with just a couple of clicks. So it's really nice. It makes it very easy for somebody who is not a domain name guru, but they also have great tools for people who are and who know how to use DNS. At Hover, the main point is you're a customer and not a source of data. Take back control of your data with reliable, tracker-free email. Hover is trusted by hundreds of thousands of customers who use their domain names and email and turn their ideas into reality. And you should check out Hover on a regular basis because they always have sales. I noted they've got a big sale on the .art, the .art extension right now. Whether you're a developer, a photographer, a small business, Hover has something for you to expand your projects and get the visibility you want. Hover.com/twit. Remember that because you'll get 10% off your first purchase of any domain extension for the entire first year. Hover, HOVER.com/twit. 10% off your domain extension for a full year. We thank Hover for their support. The most recent domain I registered was my name backwards. Somebody in the chat room said, "Do you have OAelectrapal.com?" I said, "Oh, no, I don't. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but maybe
Leo.
I can make a backwards website or something."
Leo with an L for the walls.
I love Hover. Anyway, thank you, Hover, for letting me host all my domain names there. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your support of Mac Break Weekly. You, Mac Break Weekly fans, can support us by going to hover.com/twit. That is all. Apple.
We didn't give Mark Zuckerberg on that power glider with a flag enough to Leo. I feel like that was a pivotal moment in our culture this year, and I can never unsee it.
Wait a minute. Tell me where that is. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. You haven't seen it yet?
Mark Zuckerberg posted a picture on a video on the 4th of July where he's
How did this make sense?
I forget what it's called, a hyperglider surfboard with the American flag.
How did,
no zinc, no suntan lotion this year.
How did this make sense?
I'm searching for this like crazy. What?
Mark Zuckerberg
it was all over Twitter yesterday, I think. It was yesterday or the day before.
See,
it was.
There are reasons it's good to be on Twitter. Not many.
24 seconds later, the number of memes based on this video outnumber the post of this video by at least 10 to 1.
Or good to be off Twitter. Yeah. I mean, either way, you can
Internet
take this
erupts over Mark Zuckerberg's flag-toting July 4th video. Here is, can I get it to play? No, I can't. Let's see if we can see it. I mean, here it is. Oh my God! What is he's wake surfing with an American flag and playing John Denver music.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pause that so that we don't get that taken down. He may own it, but we don't. He probably does own it. Oh look,
maybe
Mark.
Denver can copy strike him.
He's a patriot. I guess he's not being towed. That's an electric surfboard, huh?
Yeah,
okay.
it's got a vane so that at a certain so that at a certain point it will actually hover a couple of feet above the surface of the water. So
I have to say this beats last year's picture of him.
Yes,
with way too much. Now we know how he keeps his pearly complexion. Way too much sunscreen on the same. By the way,
he was dressed up as an Uruk-hai for Lord of the Rings Day. You can't blame him.
It's really terrifying. Okay. Yeah. I don't, this is two things I don't actually pay attention to. Twitter and Mark Zuckerberg. So, but I'm glad.
Oh, we're sorry, Lee. I'm sorry.
Actually, he posted that on Instagram, but they apparently went crazy on the Twitter talking about it.
See, I bet that once you reach a certain echelon at Apple's executive ladder, they give you that like week-long training course about, okay, don't do stuff like this. and also, if you're gonna post photos of yourself, make sure you're not riding like an $8,000 Tech Bro recreational device, because that only nettles into the wound.
I don't
just tweet about how nice this new iPhone is. That's all.
For a billionaire, nothing like that is just like, oh, someone just shot that with their video. Like that took people and things and process, and like that was like a couple days of planning and like it was to do that. And,
you think so? You think Mark didn't just
like Bezos on the windmill.
Say, hey, shoot. Let's do this. Shoot me, and we'll post it. I don't think.
Lovey, get out your
flag.
Lovey,
flag.
I wouldn't be terribly shocked if it really was just somebody in the support boat, because this isn't like a jet ski. You got to go. No, you got to do this off of a boat, because you're not going to make it all the way across the bay that way.
There's the alternate audio track.
No one decided I'm going to lose. I'm willing to lose my job at Facebook over saying, dude, no.
The alternate audio track.
or maybe he just realized that, okay, look, Elon Musk is about to go up into space on his own spacecraft. Jeff Bezos is about to go up into space on his own spacecraft.
He must be feeling left out.
I got to show that I have my own high-tech, enviable space age aqua boom device.
Somebody though made a good point. That flag, that's got a lot of resistance. Him holding that. And he's doing pretty well. That guy's strong. That's not an easy thing to do.
Or
you go ahead
Android.
and try that. Well, that's true. An Android
Data
could do it.
Lieutenant Commander Data could do this
without any effort at all. Yeah, I mean, and who's operating the hoverboard? Somebody's got to be holding the.
There's a submarine under there. Alex knows how this is all done.
No, there's a prop underneath that fin.
Yeah, but normally you'd be holding the remote control for that. So you're right. Maybe Alex, you are right.
Good point.
Somebody else is driving,
or the whole thing is rendered.
It's a lot of work to do that kind of thing. Like as someone who shoots a lot of those kinds of things and with people like that, it's a lot of work.
It's
and
also sunset. Now that I'm looking at it a little more closely, I think maybe you're right. Yeah.
Now that now that I'm thinking about it, Alex wasn't here last week, as we had some sort of a patriotic 4th of July thing that he played with his family. Did he get a phone call saying, "I'm going to wire 1.2 million into your account. I need you to map my face onto an actually fit person who can actually operate this hoverboard"?
So Scooter X is saying it's not electric; it's a foil board. But what is moving it? Oh, I'm sorry.
The force of Mark's will. It's his content moderation.
There's no tow rope, so there's an engine in there somewhere, right? Or is
Facebook newsfeed is powering it
now? For the reasons that people are going to be able to guess, I'm familiar with this because it was part of a stage on The Amazing Race Australia last season.
Oh, good.
And at least the ones that they had to learn how to use had an electric motor like underneath at the end of that wing that's going into the water.
Scooter X is insisting there's no engine, but I don't understand what would be propelling it forward if there weren't an engine. He's not using the American flag as a sail, is he? There's got to be an engine.
The dreams of pivot to video media companies that died to.
Alex, could you do some research into this? Maybe this is.
I'll look into it.
Could you tell if this were green screen? Would you know?
It's not green screen.
Okay,
that'd be too hard. It's absolutely. He's absolutely
on the water,
and they're absolutely shooting that. It absolutely happened. I just think that it absolutely happened with a lot of planning.
Yeah, he's got extreme skills. I mean, I have to say, I couldn't do this. That's impressive. A lot of balance. He's holding that flag.
Now, but are you sure if they were doing this? If they were planned, you're sure that they wouldn't have had like a follow light or a reflector? You sure that the lighting would have been better? I'm serious.
No, they have to make it look like it's
too well lit.
It's
pretty. It's got to look like you're just doing it. But yeah, it's you know, you have the white off of the boat, that kind of thing. You know, with the sun on the other side. So he had a little bit of fill
see
there.
the destroyer that's protecting him on the opposite side of the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a destroyer. Yeah.
So I'm still unclear.
Annihilator,
You can do it also with a parachute, but I guess if you timed it right, you got fast enough and you let go of the parachute. I don't know why I'm persisting on this, but
I don't know how those things work. I'm not really I'm not like a water ocean person. So
it's got a little foil underneath, which is what raises you up in the air.
Right.
And I guess if you get going, you can just
get going. I think you have to bob up and down to get it to go, and you'll see him bob every once
bobbing.
in a while.
Oh, all right.
So I think that's what kind of I don't understand.
He's going way too fast not to have something launched him. Come on.
As usual, when
thing is rendered.
If you can go that fast
like Valheim,
by
Leo.
bobbing up and down, it's Valheim. That's what it is.
Built-in Valheim.
By the way, that's what I spent my 4th of July doing. So pretending to be in a
Quelle surprise, Laporte.
Viking relationship. All right. Should we get back to Apple? Let's. Not that there's any big stories we're missing.
Apple, it's so much less interesting.
Apple, I know. Apple accessory makers reportedly hit by shortages of Apple Watch charging pucks. Oh no!
Hoard
the charging pucks. This comes from Mark Gurman's new Power On newsletter that he's doing in Bloomberg. That some have pointed out it's a little looser. He doesn't have to say the same.
It's the basketball metaphor that's impressive. He manages to fit all the news into a complete basketball metaphor.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
The starters, the bench, the entire thing is
his
basketball fan base.
He's just flexing at this point.
Yes.
Impressive. There is a lot in this piece. Holy cow. So the starters. Apple has operated on the principle that ambitious technologies yearn for a place in Silicon Valley where they could put their mark on the next iProduct. This is the battle over whether people should have to work at the Apple campus. You can live wherever you want. Cost of operation is extremely high. There have been certainly moves by the employees to not have to go into work. Johnny Sharugi, one of the strongest proponents of a shift out of Cupertino. His group opened up offices in Florida, Massachusetts, Texas, Israel, and parts of Asia, since expanded to Germany, Oregon, and San Diego. Eddie Q also pushing for decentralization. He's got LA offices and a location in Nashville, but that's because of the music industry, right?
Well, but I think that like some of the
in LA.
Yeah, and I think that, like, for instance, if I'm correct, the Office team, the team that does numbers and pages, and I think they're in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
I think
nice. In Vancouver, too. The mobile version's in Vancouver.
Apple's spending $2 billion on campuses in Austin and North Carolina, hiring engineers.
There's a ton of AI and voice where Andy is.
Yeah. I mean, this is a big company. It's global, right? They've got offices in Austin, Ireland, and Singapore. Hybrid offices and remote work arrangements are being piloted globally. Something that, because in September, Apple staff comes back, but they will only be required to be in office Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. I don't get that at all.
That way you don't get an extra long weekend.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like teachers. You can't give them a day on the weekend because they'll just take a long weekend.
Yeah. So if you made it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you'd never hear from Thursday through Sunday. Yeah, that makes sense.
You don't treat people like criminals; they won't behave like criminals. They have a whole long established tradition on that.
Okay.
I think that Real Housewives is on Thursday night, so people are probably going to be like staying up late on watch parties anyway.
I think that the hybrid is actually going to make it worse because then they have all of this time to sit in traffic and be in a shared space half of the week, and then they're working at home the other half of the week. And I think it actually makes it worse because the open office plan is a disaster.
I agree.
A disaster.
I agree.
And people hated it. Every one of these companies. And they put up with it because they love the rest of the company. They love their job. They love, all these other things. They just put up with the open office plan. But every time you get a phone call, you have to stand up and walk out. And, every time, there's just this constant disruption of people walking by and talking to you, which they say is a good thing. It's not. And the employees hate it. So now that they've been at home, and for the ones that had enough space to burrow in and take over a room, they don't want to go back. They don't want to go back to what they were doing before, sit through an hour and a half of traffic each way, so that you can be in an open office experience. I mean, so I think that's the problem that all these companies have now. I think Apple has some valid needs for people to come in for certain things when they're working on hardware, and there's some of the security stuff and everything else that you don't necessarily want people to take stuff home. But I think that for a lot of the employees, I don't think that they necessarily need to do their work at the office, and the other companies that Apple competes for resources are getting pretty lenient. So about what you have to do, and a lot of people are moving out. And they don't want to, and so I think that's the problem. That Apple's going to keep on competing for that talent, and that talent, they don't want to come back. Most people I've talked to about it that work in a lot of these different companies have said if they had to come back to the office, they wouldn't quit. They just would start applying. If they found another job, but you don't want people in that mindset.
That's what people are worried about.
Other jobs in the company too, because some jobs are remote. Like some of the traditionally maps.
I want to work for Saruji.
A variety of places. Yeah. Well, no, Saruji's stuff is locked down. It's hardware. That's hard. It's hard to work on hardware.
Hard to get into hardware.
But the Maps team has been international or remote for a long time, and other teams are much more flexible. So you're going to start picking and choosing. And the danger is that you'll lose some of the best people from some of the most important teams, like the frameworks teams and the stuff that Apple really wants to keep on campus.
I mean, you look at what people make in the. Go ahead.
Well, once it's easy to push around employees who are still in their early 20s, mid 20s. Once they have families, once they're putting down roots, once they're starting to think about their future in terms of their family unit and their kids, as opposed to lifelong employment to a famous company, that's when they become very dangerous and very mobile.
Yeah. And the big thing is for a lot of people who have been here for a while, they either already have or they have the ability to sell their house, and with the cash left over of a half-filled mortgage, they can go buy something somewhere else that's much larger than what they were living in. And you look at the employee, the how much these folks are getting paid, and then the squalor that they often live in compared to what they're getting paid. That and even if they take a 15 or 20%. Yeah, the 15 or 20% pay cut to go somewhere else is still going to be really good for a lot of these employees. And so, and that whole idea that you're going to get paid less out of area is only for a certain level of employee. There's definitely, as you get to the upper ranks of most of these companies, they can't really negotiate with those employees. They need to, that employee could move wherever they wanted to move, and the company would have to keep on paying them the same amount. Because they're worth too much to the company.
More problems with Wi-Fi SSIDs. Apple really has got to fix this bug. You remember the very weird long string %S, %N, %SSSSS, %P.
Who thinks of it? I don't understand how you get to understand what to type in to make that happen.
It must have been kind of almost
Computer
accidental.
Nerds, comp sci nerds.
After looking into it, I realized that the problem is that %P at the end says, basically, that's a poke command. It says poke whatever precedes this into an area of memory. That's always a dangerous thing.
Yeah,
the fact that somehow is unprocessed before Apple, whatever, they send that to something, and whatever that thing is, whether it's the text display field on the Wi-Fi or whatever, doesn't sanitize it, and it actually works. So Carl Schau is a reverse engineer at secret.club, has tried another one. And again, it's %S and %P, I think, that are the problem. I don't even want to tell you this one because, at least Schau says, you don't have to join this network. You just have to walk by it, this Wi-Fi ID, and it will disable Wi-Fi. He said he had to try a lot of things. He's reset network settings, forced restarted the iPhone. None of that worked. Eventually, he had to get in and edit a P list. He had to do a lot of things. A number of people on Twitter saying, do not use this name for a Wi-Fi access point. Every iPhone walking by it will get reset. Yikes!
This is the worst kind of security problem or kind of bug where it's bad. It's bad enough when you have somebody who has knowledge of the inner workings of the iPhone, who has access to your phone for a certain amount of time, can possibly inject a blah 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 execute code. When you get people who are like just random knucklehead who just saw something in a forum saying, "Ooh, you mean that if I just take this the hotspot in my office and change the name to this, I can screw up everybody who's in my dorm? All right, that's awesome."
That's why I'm not revealing the SSID, although I'm sure people will find it. I certainly hope this gets fixed. The fact that it didn't get fixed after the last one tells me that whatever the bug is, Apple hasn't tracked it down yet. But something is trying to render that string.
Wi-Fi passwords now.
Yeah, that's terrible. That is not good at all.
And I think a lot of times a lot of these are programs, they're shortcuts when people are working on networks. They just put these in so that they can do something or do, they have commands in here so that they can get things done quickly. It's how an engineer just we have a lot of things in our, like in Mukana, my Q&A system, that you can just type in strings and it'll do something for you so that I can see what this looks like or what that looks like. And it allows you to work quickly. And then of course you think you got it all, rid of it all. And sometimes you didn't.
I think this is actually not that, because it's basically not sanitizing your inputs. You should never assume that a string being handed to you is something that you could just process. And the fact that the %P and the %S are in there, that's all that's in this new one. The %P is the problem. And it's a failing in C++, and I suspect Objective-C as a result, which is it's in the format string, and but instead of just having it print out, in a nice way, it lets you take what preceded and put it in memory. That is not a good feature to have in any language. And so I don't think that they intentionally leave that in because they might want to poke a memory thing in an SSID. I think that that's just not sanitizing the inputs. It's not a good thing at all.
I definitely don't think it's a good thing.
No, and it's not the kind of thing I think you would leave in.
I don't think you'd leave it on purpose. Absolutely not.
Yeah, or even put in for debugging. I understand, and I agree with you. Sometimes these are. This one is just this inputs are not being sanitized by something that's displaying that string, and as a result, it's putting junk in memory where it doesn't belong. This is the if you do %P, it's a pointer to an implementation defined format pointer to void. Not good. Not good. To be able to stick anything into memory at a random point is not good. So
someone's going to set their SSID to divide by 0 and just end the world.
It's kind of like that. And apparently, he really had a hard time getting his Wi-Fi back. So this is a nasty thing. Be careful.
Arbitrary shellcode execution.
Here, you would like this, Alex. It's a AI that publicly shames politicians.
I thought this one. So the funny thing about this is that I thought it was a little absurd. It's kind of like you have no idea what they're doing. Like they could be like researching what the person's talking about.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I don't again. I'm not against all politicians. I just when they get into areas they don't understand, I think that and they decide they want to do something really big, I go, "Ooh, that's a bad idea."
This was actually an art project. A Belgian artist monitored YouTube videos of Flemish government meetings. They're figuring out who's looking at their phone and then face recognition to identify the politicians and then publishing statistics.
The genius of this is if you wanted to get politicians to vote against or create all kinds of rules about how you can't use video for surveillance, this is the way you would do that. I think
that's the real point, to be honest.
I think that's the point, is to scare them into, understanding. It's kind of like the end of Enemy of the State. When the politician sees the camera that he was just using on, they use it against him. I think they're just using the AI against them so that they get like, this could be used by anybody on anything, not just bad people.
This is if you want to follow it, it's now a Twitter account at Flemish Scroller. I think it'd be better if the AI recognized they were playing Candy Crush and could just shame him for that. Because you're right, he might be looking up a law or something.
So are they covering their? Are they now? It looks like both.
He's
of them
covering his face. Yeah,
it looks like they're they're
they're definitely aware of this now. All of a sudden, yeah,
look
it's
at
not
this.
me.
Like, she
it's not me doing this. Yeah. I'm. Don't.
And if you've ever sat in a lot of those sessions, there's a good reason not to pay attention the whole time.
Boring.
It's like watching the grass grow.
This is why I'm not in government. It is the most boring thing ever. Some people are like it.
No, but the thing is that all I'm saying is there's a lot of time to multitask that you didn't lose anything. So if people are paying their politicians so much money, you want them to multitask because they're not covering very much information, in front of them, and they're handling probably many things that probably they should be handling. In
show of hands. I mean, the reason I don't watch much Netflix with subtitles is because I can't be on the phone at the same time as I'm watching. Very few shows get all of my attention. I've got my laptop, I've got my phone. Lisa's playing her game.
I just find the fact that I'm upset that I have to give up I'm going to have to someday give up my mask because show me how often I'm yawning.
Oh, that's a good one.
Really tired here.
Sometimes you just need oxygen. That's all. It's not
exactly.
It's not exhaustion.
But I again, like if we think about how we interact, I don't know how everybody interacts at conferences, but if I go to a conference, I always sit in the back with my laptop.
Yep.
I pop it open and I'm listening. I'm listening to what they're saying, but I'm also answering a bunch of emails and noodling with some design thing and that type of thing.
Hey, we'll have more news in just a second. But first, a word from our sponsor. Our show today brought to you by Molecule. Actually, the air in this room is brought to you by Molecule. You know that indoor air, this according to the EPA, is up to 5 times worse than outdoor air. It's nice if you can open a window, but if you can't, get a Molecule. It is more than just an air purifier. It is not just an innovation on the existing filtered technologies. It's a scientific breakthrough in air purification that's called PICO, photoelectrochemical oxidation. So in my Molecule, we have a number of different molecules in the house. We have the Molecule Air. In the Molecule Air, there's a filter stage at the bottom that looks, just like a HEPA filter. We change that pretty regularly because it picks up all the animal hair and dust and stuff like that. But above it, in that cylinder, there's a really interesting device. We don't have to change that, but maybe twice a year, 3 times a year. What it does is it traps very tiny particles, not just the allergens, but pollutants like bacteria and mold, and yes, even viruses. And then it doesn't just hold them, it destroys them. There's now a number of molecules for every size room. There's the original Molecule Air, which I have. That's for rooms up to 600 feet. They now have a Molecule Air Mini, which is designed for smaller rooms. There's also the Mini Plus with a particle sensor and auto protect mode that adjusts the fan speed based on the sensor. And then if you're in a medical office or you just want to have really clean air, the Molecule Air Pro RX, this is a FDA-approved 510K Class 2 medical device, destroys bacteria and viruses in the air. So now there's a Molecule for almost everybody. We have a Molecule at home in the bedroom. Our kid's bedroom has one. We have the big Molecule in the studio here. We kind of beefed up our molecules due to COVID, but I'm keeping them because we get smoke from fires and stuff. It's really, really nice to have a Molecule. You just feel like you're breathing clean air. For a limited time, you can save up to $120 on Molecule Air Purifiers. Molecule spelled with a K, MOLEKULE.com, molecule.com. I want to point out, and you should read this, it's in the research section of the website, that some air purifiers actually introduce more volatile organic compounds, chiefly ozone, into the air as they work. The Molecule does not. And to me, that's very, very important. There's one of the papers is a very good test they did at the Lawrence Labs, DOE approved, actually owned, I think, DOE lab up here in Berkeley. Read the research so you know, but I think you're going to want a Molecule, MOLEKULE.com. Our promo code is MacBreak120, up to $120 off air purifiers, and you also get free shipping and, of course, a 30-day home trial on your order. MacBreak120, the offer code at molecule.com. Really a fan of the Molecule air purifiers. Highly recommend them. You still on the betas, Renee? Anybody else using iOS 15 or Monterey? Yeah. So this note from iMore. Be careful if you're using, Oliver Haslam writing, if you're using the new notes, they may not be backward compatible with notes on other devices, the older versions of notes. Notes that can be opened by iOS 14.5, iPadOS 14.5, and macOS 11.3. Is that right? And later, but anything older than that, you're not going to be able to open those notes anymore. I actually put iPad. I did. I put the public beta.
You did it? You did it?
Yeah, love it. I love the multitasking, and the notes is great. The fact that it's attached to a Safari page, so you could take a note, put it on the Safari page, and when you go back to that page, that note will be there. Brilliant.
Yeah, and you can get them from anywhere. Like on the homepage, you can pull up those just notes are everywhere you want them to be. It's like it really is a system-wide note feature.
Yeah,
it's like another layer on reality, a mini pocket note universe. It's amazing.
So and I only did this because you said probably it was going to be okay. It's been very stable. I haven't had too many issues at all. Everything seems to work. So yeah, I like iPadOS, and now Monterey is in public beta. You can. You can install that as well. How about that? Do you recommend, disrecommend? What's your opinion on that?
It really depends on what your workflow is and how critical. Like anything mission critical, stay away. I have it on a secondary computer because if I can't use Final Cut Pro on my main computer, that's it for me. I might as well go on vacation or something. I'm done. So I usually wait, I don't know if I wait Alex length of time. I usually wait 6 months before I even put the release version on my production machine. So I just be really caveat. But if you have an extra machine, an old machine, it's a lot of fun. And if you have an M1 Mac especially, because they have the Neural Engine on there, they're getting just a ton of iOS features for quote unquote free this year, which has always been a sore spot on the Mac. It took years to get iMessage parity on the Mac, and now everything's arriving day and date. So it's a lot of fun to just get all those new features everywhere.
And I usually have a computer that I put the beta on, and then I have one or two other computers that I put whatever the current one is there. It's just that my production computers are usually a year behind.
Oh yeah, they should be. Yeah. I am tempted because of universal control. I would really love to be able to drag a file from my Mac.
It's not in the betas yet,
but it's not in there. So don't rush.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I think that you should. It's better if you wait if there's a feature that really tickled your ivories during the keynote. Wait for that feature to actually be implemented and for word to come out that it actually is a kind of working on, at least on a holistic level, that before you update. Unless, as Renee says, you happen to have a spare Mac, you happen to have a spare iPhone, because it's usually at this point. Apple has been very, very good by the time they shift something from a developer beta to a public beta, they understand what the word public means. So it's usually pretty stable and pretty useful. But all that has to happen is your one email client that you depend on, or your one VPN that you depend on not working, and suddenly you just bought yourself a big bag of hurt. You're gonna have to roll it back. Yeah.
The thing that blows my mind is live text. It's hard to describe to people because I think they just think of it in different terms, but it's running on the neural processing engine, the Apple Neural Engine, and that means it doesn't bog down your CPU or your GPU at all. You're not losing cycles of rendering just because it's chewing through the stuff, but literally any words in any image, whether they're in your library, in the Finder, on the web, in real time, it's making them selectable, copy, pastable, clickable. And I'm getting confused now that I'm inside my photo album and I'm selecting text and I think I'm in Safari and I don't realize that I'm in the photo album. It's bananas how fast and responsive and accurate it is, because they kept deforming the models and retraining it and deforming it and retraining it. And it's not going to be a huge feature to everybody, but it's a feature that every time I use it, it just blows my mind.
It's such a simple solution to an annoying recurring problem. I've been using a feature like this. Android has something similar called Lens. It's not quite as nice, but when you got someone who was when you're using an app like Instagram that decides that I really don't want you to be able to tap links within a post and actually go somewhere. Yeah. I can just say, all right, fine, I'll take a screenshot, and then the screenshot has a Google Lens icon. Okay, Google Lens, please highlight this URL, please open this URL. Or if someone, if you've just taken a picture of a phone number, or taken a picture or come across a photo of someone else's vacation, and there's some sort of a clam shack in the background, and you're like, oh wow, he didn't say where he went, but that looks like a really cool place. Where is it? And you could just select the text off of that sign and simply say, please show me where this is in Google Maps or Apple Maps. That is one of those savory features that you didn't ask for it, but once you have it, you find yourself using it all the time, and you wonder how you ever did without it.
It's a big step towards one of the best features of the later versions of Android, and I don't know if it's on all Android phones. It's on the Pixel, which is live text captioning. So if you just open a YouTube video, it starts type as the guy's speaking. It will and do a pretty good job of having live captioning, or even your own videos. That I would imagine is just one step beyond what Apple's doing now, and I hope this is the next thing.
And the Google Dictation app is still peerless. Like, it's just so good. The Pixel, I forget what it's called.
It does an amazing job. Yeah,
right. When you do the idea of doing having an audio recording and then being able to say, oh, take me directly to the place where we talked about the construction project in Wellesley, and because it knows where the word Wellesley is, it will take you exactly to there. That's the sort of stuff where it's nice to have a feature or a special app that you've added to the operating system where you're really, really turbocharging things, is where you add something that makes every single thing you do on this device easier and better. And again, the idea that no, this is not a feature that we're making available to developers. By virtue of the fact that this is using the audio component of the operating system, we will be able to do live translation of any audio that's coming in through every app. That's going to be great. Apple, and like I said, Apple is one-upping Google Lens this way by simply, I still have to find a way to sort of bring Google Lens's attention to an image in order to make use of that feature. With Apple, it's just simply, oh, look, here's text. I don't care. It's not my problem that it's just pixels, unaggravated pixels. The fact that I've simply said, hey, trust me, there's text here. Please find out what it is and do something cool with it. That really, really makes me happy as an iPad user, maybe as a future iPhone user.
I like the phrase savory features. That's good.
Yeah.
What?
It's
tasty. Not merely tasty, savory.
It's got
it's like
umami.
You'll be picking that feature from between your teeth and enjoying it all over again for the next 2 or 3 hours.
I think the question is it savory or is it sweet? I mean, is it a sweet feature?
Well, I think sweet's been overused. So I think savory's adding a whole new dimension. Pretty soon we'll have umami features. It'll be great.
Oh, umami.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Umami.
By the way, once again, let me thank you for mushroom popcorn, the whirly pop. I'm eating far too much of it, and pointing me to the recipe by what's his name that started it all. Because putting the salt in with the popcorn, Alton Brown is a savory feature. And I also, after reading his recipe, realized I could put a few tablespoons of sugar in and make my own kettle corn. All of that before the popping even begins.
Yep,
it's the key to the operation.
And it's only because you're stirring it. I think think if you weren't constantly stirring it, you would just have a crystalline mess at the bottom of the bowl. But instead, it's all evenly distributed. Nowadays, all I say to Lisa is sweet or savory. And
is it? Here's the question I have. I don't put sugar. I don't use refined sugar. But if
it's only 3 tablespoons, you really ought to try it.
Because you're sweet enough, Alex.
I don't put refined sugar on anything. I
tried honey and maple syrup. It's not as good as plain old.
I just can't handle it. Like, it gives me headaches, and so
okay. Right.
So but
salt's very good, I have to say.
Yeah, salt. I eat a lot of salt. Anyway, but the question about the sugar is, how hard is it to clean after that? Is it sticky?
It is. And it also tends to caramelize, but you just soak it and it dissolves off.
Right.
Yeah. It's not as easy to wipe the inside of the pan as it is with just salt. In fact, salt kind of preconditions it for you, so it's very easy to clean.
Yeah, my parents liked it.
Like in 3 seconds.
For their birthdays, my parents have the birthdays on the same month. So for their birthdays, one of the things I got them was the Jiffy Pop with 6 pounds, I think, of
that mushroom popcorn from it's Amish country mushroom popcorn.
They brought it to the shore. Like they brought the Jiffy Pop to the shore.
I can't live without it now. I would bring it everywhere. And And bring the Whirly Pop too. Frankly,
yeah. No, they brought the Whirly Pop and the popcorn to the shore, and we had it like absolutely. Every night. It was like a
every
thing, and it just gets devoured. I mean, it was just they just went through it. The kids went through it so fast.
I've gone through 2 6-pound bags already. I thought when you said, "Oh, get a 6-pound bag," I thought, "What are you nuts? That's a lifetime supply." Oh no!
No. Yeah. You can go through it really fast. Yeah,
that's the standard human journey for popcorn. You say, you know what? I shouldn't be eating all these chips and Doritos and things. I'm going to have like unsalted. Well, you know what? Unsalted. It's crunchy. It's wonderful. You know, I'll add a little bit of salt.
A little salt.
Hey, what if I try to add a little? And now you're adding caramel, and now you're adding bacon bits, and
you're right back to candy.
Qualcomm is feeling a little M1 pain. They have announced, at least their CEO, Cristiano Amon, says they're going to do an M1 competitor. It's not going to be through ARM or their relationship. They're going to do a system on a chip for laptops that will include a 5G modem. Now, given how poorly Qualcomm has done,
it might be an ARM. They did hedge. They said that if ARM beats them, they'll use ARMs. But the hilarious part was they're like, we're going to catch up and pass Apple. It's going to be super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Sure.
And then they're like, but there's no way Apple's going to catch up to our modems. Like, we're going to just chomp Apple, but they're not going to come near us.
Yeah, because we have the patents.
That's not how time and space works.
Yeah, no.
Apple licensed them.
The hard part is that it's the whole ecosystem that makes this work. And so making just the chip.
I agree.
There's just a lot of agreements and a lot of consortiums that are required to do what Apple's doing. And I think that that's going to be the challenge. And again, if they say they're going to do it right now they bought, is it Nuvia?
Yes, Nuvia is the technology.
So that is... That's
former Apple employees
towards that.
It's Apple engineers that worked on the M1. But you're right. That's just the part. I think it's in response to Microsoft, because I think Microsoft, which is pushing Windows on ARM, really does want to be able to make PCs that at least look competitive with the M1. That's got to. There's a little sting there, I think. From the
Qualcomm's real advantage is the Nuvia team,
right?
You know, because those are people that probably built the M1, like built a huge chunk of the M1, or were in all those meetings and understands exactly where Apple's going, and buying that company, and it lets them cash in. I don't know what the numbers were, but I bet you they made a lot of money. I bet you, that was a good. I bet you Qualcomm.
They bought Nuvia for $1.4 billion.
Yeah, so that was a pretty good cash.
Like saying you're going to compete with the Ford GT by hiring the Model T team.
Yeah, I agree.
Not
because this was the team that worked on the transition in the lead up to the launch of the M1. Who knows what they know? And they can't bring with them a lot of the stuff. There's anti-competitive.
Yeah, there's patents. Yeah, because we all know that Apple doesn't like patents. They don't like to patent anything. So so they'll and so that I think that and it still would take them 3 to 5 years. To get there, and then where is Apple going to be then? And can they get enough of the other hardware to work with it beyond just building the chip? I think it's a pretty uphill battle.
Well, the big problem they have is that they're still a merchant silicon provider, and that creates such different dynamics than Apple. And Apple was smart. Like, they could have become an in-house merchant silicon provider with iPhone and Mac and all these people as different clients, but they didn't. They don't have to carry any extra baggage. They basically said, we're going to scale up and down. There'll be one chip in the iPhone and iPad Air, one chip in the Mac and the iPad Pro, and that lets them be very focused on like one generation of silicon. Even the Apple Watch is using A13 cores now, so they get to push their work through a bunch of devices, and they don't care about profit or loss on any chip. They don't have to keep it on the shelf to make their money back. They get so much iPhone money that they can just let those teams run as fast as they want. And that's very, very hard for a component company to compete with because the economics are just so different.
Well, they also have this thing called Xcode. That means that they are writing they have the platform that all the code is being written on, so they're able to build the libraries that take full advantage of the chips and of the hardware. And again, that makes it super complicated to compete with.
I found it very interesting that Shortcuts, which is being ported to is it in the Monterey beta yet? Renee?
Yeah, I think so. It's in the developer beta.
Yeah. So I found it very interesting. It's not a Catalyst app. It's not just they're not taking the iPad app and moving it over. And this is where Apple's Swift UI is really beneficial to them because it makes it so easy. Not with Catalyst, which was obviously now I think it's clear to say a interim technology, but so easy now to make cross-platform tools. This is going to be
when you say cross-platform, you mean cross
announced,
between iOS and
iOS and macOS.
It's going to be really interesting.
That's cross-platform, but it's huge. I think it's a big synergy. Yes, go ahead, Renee. I'm sorry.
The interesting thing to me is that when Apple announced Swift, they said it was going to scale. Like it was going to scale from operating systems to interfaces, and we've seen that play out a little bit. Like the Swift language lets people make apps. Swift UI now lets them make all these interfaces. And I wonder how long it's going to be until we see a Swift ISA, until Apple has just customized ARM's, V9 or whatever they're going to use next.
To be a Swift
so much
chip.
that they're going to just
they'll
just use Swift to create the instruction set architecture for their next generation of chips at some point.
There's a history of this. There are Lisp machines that were literally hardware created to run Lisp. I think Forth is the same thing for Forth, and that is if you can get bare metal like that. That's obviously the ideal way to do it, and that is a hell of a synergy. Now you've got something very, very interesting. I think to some degree Next was kind of...
And they don't have to share code back with ARM the way their deal is now anyway.
Right.
And I think a large part of ARM v9 is just backporting all of the stuff that Apple's done with ARM, since they've had that sort of license. And how far is Apple going to push that? Because so much of the other stuff is already custom.
We're in July. There's not going to be an announcement in July or August, right? We're waiting until September now for any new Apple hardware.
There's been spec bumps before in July.
Okay.
But I think if there's a new design, they're going to want an event.
We're not going to see an M1X probably. Do you think?
I don't think we'd see anything major over the summer.
And it won't be September because that's iPhone month. So it'll be probably October before we see new laptops, new Mac Mini, perhaps a new Mini Mac.
See, now I want a July event, Leo.
I do want one. There's another rumor, again, who knows how reliable, that we'll see MacBook Air in color in 2022.
Yep.
I would like that.
That's such an obvious thing. I can't believe it's taken this long for even us to have a rumor about multicolored MacBook Airs. Yeah, exactly. Again, I mean, these things are supposed to be fun. I'm so glad that Apple's finally breaking out of being that company of, hey, and it's available in two colors, gray or slightly darker gray. It's like, no. You're the fun company.
Is it a materials issue, a process issue? Because, of course, colored plastic's no big deal. But although it was tough to get the shades that Apple wanted, and the white was very hard.
Black is hard. Gold is super easy. Black is hard. And that's the two ends of the spectrum. And then it's just getting the screws to match if you're really fussy about that.
But they've been able to do with the phone, they've been able to do colored aluminum, yes?
Yeah, screws don't match, Leo. It burns my eyes every year.
Oh, no.
Also, I think part of it is a supply chain issue. Like, how do you know how many people are going to want the orange one? How many people are going to want
That's true. All those SKUs make it hard. Yeah.
So
the blue in this is glass, right? But this is the surgical steel.
But that's a Pro, so that's steel. Yeah, so that's blue. That's the DLC coating, so the vapor deposit coating.
That's vapor deposit.
Like watches use.
So it's not in the metal. It's on top of the metal. It's a paint.
The regular 12s are anodized. Which is just making the aluminum react to various different substances.
But that steel I guess they won't use steel. They'll use aluminum.
No. Yeah.
Is it? Do they have a way of making aluminum a color, or is it painted in effect?
It's essentially what the iMacs are right now. Yeah, they expose the aluminum. Like I think iron makes the aluminum go golden color, and there's different processes. And
the iMacs are beautiful.
Services
actually.
that would do it for you. Yeah.
So I'd love to see that color range in a MacBook Air. That'd be fantastic. They also, this rumor says, according to Dylan Dicht, which is not a good name, but that's his name. Dylan Dicht says M2 processor. That the M1X will be reserved for the Pro Mac devices. The MacBook Air will have an M2. That's a little...
People are so confused about this, but if you just think about it, like imagine the number is the generation of Intel silicon. It's like Skylake or KB Lake. And then the X at the end is like an i5 versus an i9. So like you have a generation of silicon, and then you have how much capability that generation of silicon has.
Does it add cores? Does it add cache?
Yes.
It does, both. Okay.
Yeah, well, they add cores. Sometimes the memory bandwidth is bigger. Sometimes it has extra capabilities on it. Like with the M1, it's not technically an X, but it is an A14X, and it's got some specific silicon and more RAM, those sorts of things.
This is somebody's idea of what a MacBook Pro might look like to match the iMacs. Yeah. That would be very pretty. I don't like the white bezel, but I guess we can live with that. People are saying the white bezel is the right way to go now. They're used to it.
I'm guessing you could also tell a lot about people about, okay, so they already have the Tangerine iMac. Are they going to get the Tangerine? Do they go for matchy, or do they go for, I want the opposite side of the color wheel so it's a nice contrast. I want the lemon yellow iMac, and I want the deep blue iPad next to it, and Mac Air next to it.
I may have made a tactical error, because when I bought my AirPod Max, I got the pink one, and it looks a little orangey. Actually, it doesn't look pink; it looks more like an orange. People definitely notice. If I had red hair, maybe they wouldn't. But
this is actually a serious question. If you've been wearing them and sweating into them, how does that affect the color? Is the color holding up, or is
I don't sweat, so I have not been sweating into them.
Fine.
Yours are okay. I haven't had them long enough to sweat into them. I don't wear them to work out or anything. I just wear them to listen.
Because I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about this partly because I have to sort of rescind all the complaints I've made about Apple and other streaming box companies giving you a black remote that's guaranteed to get lost. Because wow, great, this is great. They've got this is great. The Google Chromecast with Google TV, it comes with like a matching color remote. So I got the white one, so it's got the white remote, so easy to find, yay! And then I realized that after 2 or 3 months, I can tell which button I usually rest my thumb on, because it looks like the bottom of a bus stop.
Put down the remote, Andy.
Yeah,
put down the remote.
So that's got to be a problem too. How do you make color that actually wears well, that still looks brilliant and happy?
White is
that doesn't just make you sad.
Remember how all those old Macintoshes yellowed with time, with the beige ones? They yellowed with time.
Oh yeah, and remember how when the most legendary product delays after an announcement was the white iPhone, because they just couldn't get the white right. It was just such a hard color to do.
Block the sensors.
Yeah.
Pokemon Go. This is not an Apple story. I'm doing it for Renee.
It's not my pick of the week either. I was going to, but I knew you were going to beat me to it.
Came out, it's hard to believe, 5 years ago. $5 billion in lifetime revenue. And what's really interesting is it's going up, not down.
Yeah.
It generated in 2020, and I think because of pandemic probably, 41% increase in revenue to $1.3 billion globally. And as we finish the first half of 21, the title is actually about the same in terms of revenue. So it is, more people are playing than...
They were smart. But I think they're going to hurt themselves, because they're going to reverse a bunch of the stuff they did for the pandemic. Like
that's a mistake.
Longer distance. Yeah, it is, because
Lisa's already pissed off.
For safety, simple safety reasons. Like, you don't want people to have to cross streets or do all sorts of things.
Lisa's pissed off. People were really, it's
rightly so, doing
the remote battles, the ability, to spin a gym. I know people are going, what are they talking about? To spin a
$5 billion is what we're talking.
$5 billion. I mean, that's a fraction of what Fortnite made in 1 year, but it's still a good, it's the most profitable of all of these location-based games, right?
Yeah.
This is from Sensor Tower. I don't think Nintendo is saying, or Pokemon.
And it's a beloved franchise. And Pokemon in general was huge this year too. I mean, like, they just got a bunch of YouTubers unboxing them, and the price, the whole thing was outrageous.
Yeah. So, you still playing?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I'm going to go, because I've gotten to the point where I've run out of experience points. I'm like level 46, and it's going to take...
You're at 46?
Experience points to get to 47.
Oh, Lisa's already saying Lisa's at 43. She's already saying it's too much work to get to level up.
It's not the work. It's that it's so monotonous. Like, they keep making these like monotony-based challenges, and I just...
you have to fight 6,000 gym battles. It's like ridiculous.
It's boring.
Yeah, it's boring. Yeah.
I don't have much of a life, but the life I have, I want to keep.
I care about. Picks of the week coming up in just a bit. Let's get our picks of the week. I'm going to kick things off again, because I often don't have a pick of the week. There was a big discussion in the open source community, and a lot of upset over a program we've recommended for a long time called Audacity. It's a free program available on Mac, Windows, Linux, and it got sold. It's still open source. But among the commits, they suggested to add new tracking capabilities. In my opinion, and there's a good article on Ars Technica today about this, it's not the big deal that people think it is, but still, people are very concerned. So I started looking for an alternative. And actually, this is a really nice editor, also cross-platform, not open source because it was developed by a Brazilian university, but it uses patented plugins, OCEN plugins from the Brazilian telecom. However, it is compatible with VST and Apple plugins. So if you're looking for a free audio processor to replace Audacity, it's actually, I think it's better than Audacity. Works all the way up to Big Sur and on Apple Silicon as well as Intel. So it's nice that they have a native version. It's called, I have it here. I have the Linux version of it, but it's called OSEN or OCEN Audio. And I have to say, I'm very impressed with it. I love the plugins it supports. You can record directly to it, but it also will support a lot of effects, including all the VST plugins and the Apple plugins. So if you are using Audacity and for any reason you're thinking, maybe I don't want to use this anymore, or maybe just looking for something more up-to-date, because Audacity basically is a Windows 98 app that was never really improved upon. Everybody uses it because it's free. We used it for years, with podcasts and so forth. But this looks really good. So I just wanted to mention there are alternatives out there. I don't know if I have any music I can open on here, but it opens MP3s as well as WAV files, a large variety of files. Very nice. OCENaudio.com. Mr. Rene Ritchie, your pick of the week.
So my pick of the week is just
besides Pokemon
quickie,
Go. Besides that,
I mean, obviously.
In addition to that, yeah.
Sono io. My pick of the week is a quickie, but it's a goodie. It's from Stephen Hackett, who some people might know from 512 Pixels, or is a co-founder of Relay FM, prodigious podcaster.
Yeah.
He's got a 2022 Apple hardware calendar that he's put up as a Kickstarter. He is a huge collector of vintage, all different, like one of every color iMac. That's the kind of dude that Stephen Hackett is, and he's putting all of that geekery.
He's got the cube behind him. I see it. Yeah,
to work on making just a loving, adorable passion project of a calendar for next year, based on all of this Apple hardware. It's just
nice.
It's the kind of stuff I love.
So it's not Playmates. It's Macintoshes.
Firefighters.
It's not firefighters. It's not hot firefighters. It's look at all of these.
It's hot Macintoshes.
Look at all
the 20th
of these.
Century Mac too.
Yeah. We used to have that. I don't know. I think we gave it away, but there's not enough room in the world. Apparently Steve cares. Look, there's the Duo with the
He's got
dock.
a museum in his back pocket.
Look at that. That's great. All right, that's on Kickstarter, and it's already raised enough money to go ahead. $25,000.
Like 8 times over.
Yeah, 600 backers. 25 days to
but
go.
There's 25 days left. Yeah.
Search for 2022 Apple hardware calendar. Nice, very nice. Andy, your pick of the week.
I've got a really cool one. It's an app called Brickit, Brickit, and what it does is it'll look at your collection of Lego pieces, and it will show you models you can make based on the pieces you have. I swear to God,
awesome.
You just scatter them like on ideally on it's on a high contrast background, like a bed sheet. You don't have to be that fussy about making sure that they're all separated. You take a picture of it, and then you actually for extra dazzle points, they actually it'll analyze the picture and will actually like put little halos around every single piece that it identifies.
OMG.
Then it will tell you here. Okay, great. You've got 273 pieces. Here are some models that you can build with the pieces that you have. And no, they're not like 1,000-piece models or anything like that. They're simple models, but oh my God, it's so cool. And if you just have this bucket of Legos and you just want to play with your kids, and being creative and inventive and making your own stuff doesn't appeal to you.
God,
it's like little X-wing fighters, little soccer players. But it's incredible that this thing works, and it actually like works.
This is really amazing.
Yeah, you can also if you have like Lego sets that you're done with, you can also type in like the number of your Lego set, and we'll just add that to so he has the Lego Tuk vehicle set, and so here's what you can build with all the pieces from the Lego Tuk vehicle set, like a goldfish.
And I gave away all my Legos, man.
Yeah.
Oh man, because when I was a kid, I would just I had such a pile of them unsorted that I would just, build stuff, but it'd be nice to have some ideas like this.
Also, Legos and baseball cards, they're sort of like the cultural heritage of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's like in my neighborhood, it's like at some point you would find that your mom had brought home a huge bucket of Legos because the kid up the street was now like 15, 16, wasn't using them anymore. And then you become 15, 16, and then this even bigger bucket of Legos goes to this little kid.
Exactly. I imagine that my little snowball of Legos is now a giant snow house of Legos because they slowly,
legacy Legos.
Nobody throws out Legos. You just hand them on to the next generation.
But yeah, this app is like, it's just so fun just to say, it's this app that you download because there's no way this works. So come on, this is no. I'm gonna make such fun of this app onto. Oh my God, it's actually. Oh my God, not only that, but if you said, okay, I want to do that little model of the duck riding a steam engine, it will then like return you to that picture and highlight in the picture where all the pieces you need are, assuming you haven't like scattered them on the bed sheet since you took that picture. It's like, oh my God, I want to buy you a coffee, sir or madam. I will take your, whatever your philosophy in life is, I at least will listen to the first 3 minutes of it because you seem to got it all figured out.
So many, if you search for Lego sorters, there are a million projects of people who built Lego sorters. So the AI to kind of figure out what each piece is out there. Yeah. But, of course, building a Lego sorter is a little more complicated. You can do it this way, or you can build one that this is a universal Lego sorting machine that somebody built that has a conveyor belt.
Made out of Lego.
Oh, of course, you have to make it out of Lego. That's part of the deal, right? Alex Lindsay, your pick of the week, my friend.
So a long time ago, I had this idea that it would be great to be able to control apps, and you would be able to have a piece of hardware, but the hardware would be modular. You could kind of click things together, and I thought about ways to do that. And it turns out somebody did it without any input from me, and it's really pretty. It's pretty slick. And let me just
this is kind of Legos for software for
Alex.
Yeah, Alex Legos.
So this is what it looks like. This is the modular. This is the monogram, and what they have here is these are little pieces, and they all just kind of like pop out.
There's knobs and dials and switches.
So you say, "Oh, I want some buttons," and you just snap them on.
And they're unassigned, but you would then use software to assign them to the.
Yeah. So then what you can do is, you can. Let's see if I cut to this. This is Final Cut here, but if I let's see if I.
He's making something. Here. Watch out! I see he's got the scale out.
So anyway, no, but you have so this is the assignment. So you just kind of click on one and you say, I want to assign something to it.
Oh, that's
so you
nice.
can assign whatever you want. It sees what they are, and you can assign what they're all doing. And then if I go to Final Cut, what you can see is I'm just turning a dial, and able to control color. So I that's what I assign to these. And if I go
that's really neat.
So now I have, and it just gives you this kind of, and it works with, Final Cut. It works with Zoom. I haven't figured that out yet. It also works with a lot of the Adobe products. And so anyway, and just but what's really cool about it, and here's like a little.
Works with Logic as well, Ableton Live, Cubase.
Yeah. So and some of these are much more, some of these are very tightly integrated. And so anyway, so I think that it's not cheap. They're really well made.
They're good quality. Yeah,
they're really good quality. They snap together. It's a great little, again, this cool little modular interface that allows you to just decide how you're going to put that together on your desk and where you want it and where they make the most sense. And you can see a bunch of different use cases for them on the website. So you can keep on adding to them or subtracting or splitting them up, and it's anyway, it's a really slick piece of hardware. We're actually going to have the developers of this on Office Hours on Friday.
Looks really nice.
Kind of walk through it. So they sent me one to take a look at, and I was like, okay, this is exactly what I wanted. a while ago. So anyway, yeah. So they're going to come on and show us more than what I'm just showing here on Office Hours on Friday. But I think that it is. But I've been playing with it now for a little while, and it's just a really slick piece of hardware, and I just love the idea of being able to customize what I'm, what I have control over, and for each app have this kind of setup. So we're looking forward to using a lot more of it.
Yeah.
Works with Unreal Engine, works with Capture One, of course, all the Adobe products, Final Cut.
And it's easy to say, well, you can just do it with a mouse. But when you have the hardware to interface, it's smoother and you get it done faster.
It's more intuitive too. Yeah. When you're using faders to control mixes and things, it's much easier, I think, than doing it on the screen. Yeah.
You just move faster, and time is money.
Yep. Yeah. You might want to check out last week, one of the video editors from Linus Tech Tips did a really good in-depth review of this unit, because he'd been using the first one and he'd been like sending his feedback to the developers on the second one. So he then spent a whole bunch of time looking at the second one. And so they'll give you an idea of some of the things he likes, some of the things he didn't like, as someone who just does nothing but video editing. Because he said it was a bit of a mixed bag, but I'm sure it's going to depend on what you want to use it for and what problems going to solve for you.
They are not inexpensive. I mean, we're talking hundreds of dollars for each module, but if you care.
But I love tactile interfaces, man. They need to come back.
Oh, this is so $400 for all of these. That's not bad, actually. Yeah, tactile. I agree with you, Andy. Yeah.
I mean, the bottom line is that I guess if I'm going to put something on my desk, I want it to work well. and that comes down to just working smoothly. Yeah. And so I'd rather that pay a little bit more for each module than have it be, kind of a cheap little, it scratches against the thing, and it just is one of those things that I want those things. When you actually play with it, I think what I liked about it was that you can feel the money you spent on it. Like it feels good. Like it's like
switches should feel that way. Knobs, dials, switches should feel smooth. They should have acceleration built in. There's
Alex is a video artist. He needs a Stradivarius.
Exactly. All I want is like that video fader, like brushed metal fader control, like they used to energize the Death Star main ion cannon.
Exactly.
And I just want. I don't.
You can get one of those.
Yeah, but it's so cool. Just like put your hands on it, and
I think that if
just for volume control.
I think though that if you have that, you should just have it not connected to anything but a speaker, and when you move it, it just goes. Just every once in a while, you need that. Like, I'm feeling a little tired. This has been a really hard project. Let me. Okay, now we're gonna light it up.
I think is this the closest thing we have available? But would this work? Just a little.
It's a linear slider. I want the handle that you have to hold on to, and then like you push it forward.
You can get Burke to work on it. We'll just get Burke to make a big handle, and
no joke. I have some eBay searches saved for like give me a junk like color balance, color mixing video console from like the 1970s, just so I can like cannibalize it for parts. Like maybe use like a Raspberry Pi or Tiny as an interface. Again, I will figure out what this does, if it does anything, after I get this thing together. I just want occasionally you just need to say energize pad 3.
This thing is awesome. It's got an RS-232 control port on the back, but it does say Gumpel. So I figure Alex is probably looking for this. This probably is like the switch from the applause sign on the late night show or something like that. So we really, we do want to get that back to Alex. Alex, if you're looking for your applause switch, here it is.
There it is.
Can we hook this up to an applause sign? That would be, I would like that. Alex Lindsay, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Yeah, there we go. You could blink it like that. It'd be great. So much pleasure to have you, Alex. Of course, 090.media is his day job, but the rest of the time he's at office hours, officehours.global, to find out more about all of the things going on at office hours. When you're not there, it continues, though, doesn't it?
It does. We had a whole different set of hosts last week, so people just keep talking, with or without me. So it's great. It's incredible. You have every once in a while I look at the folks there. We have just incredible skill sets in every panel. I mean, it's generally a half a millennia of experience that's all stacked up there, answering just every question that comes in and hitting a home run all the time. It's quite a thing.
Mostly production, right? Video and audio production, but
it's media production and virtual, like virtual production, virtual events, those types of things. What we talk a lot about, People ask me, we do cook. We cook together.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
So
it's really a community.
I got to tell you, when we did a Raspberry Pi, there's one of the folks that's in office hours actually wrote a program for the Raspberry Pi called the Playout B, and it basically does what a Hyperdeck does, except that it's just on a Raspberry Pi, and you can load files into it and play them out, and it'll talk to the ATEM and everything else. And so we did a Playout, a Raspberry Pi afternoon where we all put together this Raspberry Pi, put it together from scratch. We all got the kit, put it together, got Playout B installed, got it all running with our ATEM little ATEM minis. What was fascinating is that when you do that with a bunch of other people that already have multiple cameras, it's an incredible experience. You've got like 15 or 20 people all with multicam cutting, like showing you close-ups. So what about right here? I don't understand this. And the other person going, oh no, and they cut to their close-up. This is the way to do this, you know. And
oh my God. This is like a panel show where everybody on the panel is Jerry Todd. Like,
let
me just adjust the chroma on that. How about some color bars on channel 3?
Well, I mean, we do so what's incredible though is that experience. That when we do cooking, it's the same thing. We cook together, and but we all have multiple camera setups, and so you have these close-ups of everybody cooking together, and then asking questions and trading notes. And I cut it this way, and you see a close-up of like someone cutting it. I do it this way, and I've switched this out because I don't eat those things. And what was interesting is when we do the cooking ones, there'll be like 10 or 15 of us doing it, and then there'll be 90 people watching, asking questions like, why don't? It's a crazy team, a crazy group of folks that are really. It's I don't know. I've never been part of anything like it, so it's definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely.
Officehours.global if you want to know more. Great to have you, Alex. Andy Anatko, when are you going to be on GBH next?
I'm on a little bit early this week. I'm on Friday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Go to wgbhnews.org, and you can stream it live or come back a few hours later. You can stream it later.
Very nice. WGBH in Boston, and of course, a regular on this show. And the Material program, which you do at relay.fm, all about Android. Something else, some other subject. You can find out more at relay.fm/material. Is that right?
Indeed.
All right. And Mr. Rene Ritchie, he's on YouTube, big YouTube star, hanging out with us today. YouTube.com/Rene Ritchie. What you working on today?
I just put up a story about why Apple made the iPad mini and how they had to convince Steve Jobs to let them do it.
Oh, that's a great one. I got to watch that. That's fantastic. Yeah. Why Apple?
Short. I'm trying to make a bunch of short videos this summer.
Nice. Very, very nice. Look at that. That was the Maxi. That's the original iPad right there. Look how thick it is now, fat in the bezels and all that. Come a long way, baby.
Yep.
Thank you, Renee, Andy, Alex. Great to have all three of you. We do Mac Break Weekly on Tuesdays around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. You're invited to join the fun. You can either watch us do it live, kind of like watching the behind-the-scenes video of the show. That's at twit.tv/live. If you're doing that, though, you should chat live at irc.twit.tv. You can also participate after the fact. Download shows from twit.tv/mbw. All our shows are on the website. And if you're doing that, you can chat offline asynchronously in our Twit community forums at twit.community or our Mastodon instance, twit.social. If you're a member of Club Twit, we've got a special place for you. Club Twit, $7 a month, gives you access to all of our shows ad-free, tracker-free, but you also get access to the Club Twit Discord, which is a great community. We're really happy with how that's turned out. Every show has its own chat room, but we also have topics including everything from comic books to Linux, philosophy, space, travel. Club Twit is available at twit.tv/clubtwit. It's a great way to support the network, and we really appreciate all of our members. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You can also subscribe in your favorite podcast, either to the Club Twit feed or to the regular feed. Just get your favorite podcast player, subscribe. We have links to some of them on our website, but you can also get the RSS link there and paste it in. That way you'll get it automatically the minute it's available. And if your podcast player supports reviews, please, I beg of you, leave a 5-star review. Let the world know about Mac Break Weekly. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see you next week. But now, oh, and by the way, just a program note, I will not be here next week. I'm going on vacation. What are we doing for next week? Alex, you're gonna take charge, huh?
Yes.
You're in charge. It's all on you, my friend.
Okay.
I'll record the
Sounds good.
ads, though, so you don't have to worry about those. How about that?
Yep, sounds good.
All right. We'll see you next week. Now get back to work, because break time is over. Bye-bye.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you are interested in checking out all things smart home and Internet of Things, then you should check out Smart Tech Today, the podcast I, Micah Sargent, do with my co-host Matthew Casanelli. It's all about the smart home and improving your automations.